Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us on another episode of Change Itself. If it's the first time you're joining us, welcome, and I hope you really enjoy the conversation. If you're a return listener, really happy to have you follow along. And as always, we depend and count on you for hitting the likes and to ring the bell and offer some comments with your thoughts of the episode. And on that note, Eric, here we go for another one.
Right on. Excited to get started. Are you joining us from a plane today, Gus, or what?
Yeah, not my regular studio today. We're on the road. We're deploying our solutions to a new mine. So Kit Operations were graceful enough to allow me to continue to resume the podcast operations from their office. And I feel like at home already here. So we'll do it from here.
Right on. I'm excited to get this show started. So why don't we introduce our guests and members of the OMCSA, the Ontario
Absolutely.
Association.
Right on. Yeah. So it's a pretty special episode today. I mean, both you and I, Eric, have participated quite a bit with the OMCSA meetings, and we thought it'd be a great opportunity to have Roy Slack and Steve Rickson join us today to talk a little bit more about that association, how it came to be, and so on. So welcome to the show, Rick and Roy and Steve.
Thanks, Gus. Very happy to be here.
Yeah, great to be here. Great to catch up with you, Gus, and you as well, Eric. Thanks for the invite.
Guys, want to tell our listeners a little bit more about the OMCSA?
Sure, I'll kick us off, Eric. And the OMCSA stands for the Ontario Mine Contractors Safety Association, and it's one of the oldest safety associations in Canada. It's been around since the 1960s, and it's a pretty unique group. I've had the opportunity to participate in some groups in different provinces across Canada, and this group, while it's made up of a whole bunch of competitors, mainly, those companies that perform underground mine contracting work, which is a very competitive business. We get together 4 times a year, and there's a set agenda. We move across primarily Northern Ontario, and we really share in the interest of protecting the people that work for us. It's a very open dialogue. It's really collaborative. And over the years, it's evolved quite a bit and changed. So it's like you say, last year we just celebrated our 300th meeting. The group used to meet more frequently, but quarterly seems to be the happy spot for us now. So it's really a passionate group, and the recognition that we get from other parts of the industry really shows us that we're doing it well. So that's kind of a brief overview from my perspective.
That's a great summary. It's always nice to hear it from people that are part of the community as far as how they describe it, and I think in the concept of change. I mean, Roy, you've been around the mining sector for a little bit. How have you seen this group transform over time, and how have you seen it help the contracting environment or a contracting space evolve over the time since you've been involved with the group?
Certainly, I've seen safety change, and Gus, you mentioned Timmins, and my second shaft project was in Timmins, at Dome Number 8 shaft, and there were 3 fatalities on that job, and that was in the early 80s. And as a young engineer, I just couldn't fathom that. And of course, people in the industry didn't accept it either. This wasn't what we wanted mining to be, and so a lot of people were involved in trying to change the culture and the results. One of the things that people recognized was that we were having the same incidents over and over. So if one contractor had someone injured from a fall of ground, another contractor would say, yeah, well, 2 years ago, the same thing happened to us. One of the key things about the Ontario Mine Contractors Safety Association is sharing those incidents with others in order to help prevent them from happening again in the future. So I think that's been key within our contracting industry in terms of preventive safety and trying to protect our people.
Mining companies around the world rely on Cal Tire's Mining Tire Group for innovative tire management and supply. Whether they're making their work safer and more efficient, reducing total cost of ownership, or helping customers improve sustainability, Cal Tire unlocks opportunity and drives positive change. To learn about their award-winning repair technology, tire management tools, recycling solution, and TOMS, their productivity-driven tire and operations management system, visit them at caltiremining.com. Zero Knox is leading the electrification of off-highway commercial and industrial vehicles. They provide a platform for clean energy technology to get to market through powertrain solutions, development partnerships, and electrification kit solutions for conversions. Reduce carbon emissions without diminishing vehicle performance or being restricted by high costs. Partner with Zero Knox, like many of the world's leading OEMs, as they solve challenges across multiple continents with their cleaner and higher performing technology. Zero Knox solutions are designed and engineered in America with offices in Porterville, California. Learn more at zeronox.com. Savannah Equipment supplies new and used mining equipment around the world, from placer to underground to ore processing plants. They have gold concentrating tables, trommels, and mineral jigs in stock now to take advantage of the high gold prices. You can visit them at savannahEquipment.com, where you will find more equipment every day.
It's interesting, Roy, you share on that the concept of sharing amongst different contractors and similar incidents. I got to participate in the September meeting, and as much as things change, things are very much still the same. We had, maybe Steve, you were there, but there's, lots of things around hand injuries, and it was everywhere. It's prevalent across all contractors. And the timing and the frequency seem to be like this fall period where everything's coming up. So it's interesting to hear you talk about that then and now, how things have changed, but they're still the same to some degree.
What's evolved? I was on the executive in the mid '90s. I've been involved in it quite a while, and I'm a lifetime member now. I guess that's reserved for people that are, it's kind of the last honor. Before, anyway, I won't get into that, but the focus has evolved a bit, because in the early days it was all about those serious injuries. How are we going to prevent them? And the serious injuries got fewer and fewer, and we started to migrate towards those injuries that happen a lot. And I think now, and Steve, you may agree, I think we're focusing on both. We're looking at critical risk for the injuries that don't happen often but are very severe, and also looking at the slips and falls and the hand injuries. So over time, the focus changes, and of course, it's based on what's happening in the industry. So it's a good point, Eric.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, because even in talking about change, even in my career thus far, the objectives, the overall goals of organizations seems to have changed from kind of that zero injuries to zero fatalities. There's a focus on, okay, we only have so many resources, so much time, so much effort. Where should we put that focus on? And if you really spend all of your time focusing on preventing the hand injuries, the slips, the falls, the twisted ankles, things like that, you might miss something that's more critical and more important, and it could result in somebody not coming home. And I think we do get a variety of incident shares, and I gotta be honest, it's the best part of our meetings. We have a set agenda every time, and each meeting sometimes has a different theme. But I've gone up there many times and shared our horror stories, our failures, really, because we've had breakdowns and somebody's been hurt, and it's good. And sometimes you get asked some really tough questions. Sometimes you get points brought up to you that you hadn't maybe considered through your investigation and your findings, and you can take that back to your organization, and hopefully the people in the audience or the people who are our members are taking back the lessons learned and seeing how they could be implemented in their business to help prevent those injuries. So I think it's really supportive. It's challenging as well, which is good. We don't necessarily just brush off, oh, this happened because so and so made a mistake, or I think we're doing a better job over the years of not blaming the person or the action, but looking at the overall system, looking at the setup, looking at how the work was performed. So that's one of the things I think the industry in general is doing a much better job on.
Created and designed by industry leaders with decades of frontline experience, Sophie is a platform that brings workers home every day. Give your workforce the communication tools they need on the job to do it safely and productively. Visit Sophie.com today to discover how you can leverage Sophie to increase efficiencies, mitigate risk, and optimize collaboration. Safer, smarter, Sophie. Technica Mining is a premier underground mining and construction contractor. They stand for delivering quality project work on time and on budget through innovative thinking. Their excellent safety record, experienced workforce, and large equipment fleet will guarantee the timely completion of all your project needs. Trusted by the world's leading mining companies, Technica Mining has over 20 years of experience in mine construction, development, and production. Contact Technica Mining to take your next mining project to the next level. Visit them at technicamining.com.
And it's something that was really, really cool and neat that I experienced when I was there at some of the meetings. And then a few of the things that unfolded over the past few years is, we tend to think that in the mining space, we try to innovate and try to create new ways of doing things and kind of holding on to the IP or holding on to that idea so that you can have that competitive advantage. And that was something that I saw that was super unique with the group, was that it's like, hey, these are all the creative ways that we found to do our work safer, faster, better kind of thing. And then everybody has that forum to share their experiences that way and learn from it without that fear of jeopardizing their competitiveness or the integrity of the business. Stephen, did you want to expand on that a little bit, how that innovative challenge came to be and the impacts that it's had on industry so far?
Yeah, certainly. That's definitely a highlight. Well, we, look at our lessons learned from incidents. We also do a really good job of sharing our proactive measures. And that could be a program, that could be a design change. And what it turned into is actually in our March meetings, which is traditionally held in Timmins, we actually came up with an innovation contest. And there it's the different contractors get up and present their ideas that ideally have come from the people in the field that they've implemented at their sites to make work safer and separate people from hazards. And it's really cool. There's a competitiveness to it for sure. But the whole intent there is, if it's a good idea for us, it's likely a good idea for you. I've seen engineer drawings and prints get exchanged. It's really remarkable in an industry, again, kind of going back to a room full of competitors that really collaborate when it comes to health and safety. And I've actually had people from overseas in Australia make mention of the OMCSA Innovation Contest and the winners, and that's pretty cool. Workplace Safety North is I don't know if they're a partner of ours, but they're the Health and Safety Association for the mining industry in Ontario and forestry. And they actually, every year at their annual conference in April in Sudbury, they give the OMCSA about 15 minutes to showcase these innovations. And that's really cool because it's, again, a wider audience, and a lot of our clients are in that room too. So it really shows off the good work that the contractors are doing and the great ideas that are coming up with.
Absolutely. And you mentioned a little bit about overseas and the impact that OMCSA is having on a global scale. Roy, have you seen that? You've been around the globe a couple of times through your career, I think, right? You've had several projects in your career that touched a couple of different continents for sure. What's your take on how unique and special that, what OMCSA is bringing to the table in Ontario in contrast to what you've seen elsewhere?
Well, first of all, I haven't seen anything like it elsewhere, to be quite honest. I've been involved in lots of safety initiatives and associations, and haven't seen the owners do this either, which is interesting because they're not as competitive as the contractors. But what does happen, it's called the Ontario Mine Contractor Safety Association, but in reality, the members work across Canada and around the world. We do see incidents that contractors present that happen in some of their operations overseas. And an innovation that's presented at one of these meetings could very easily show up in Mongolia or South Africa or Australia because the members work in all of those places. So what happens in the Ontario Mine Contractors, I was thinking of Vegas. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. But what happens in the Ontario Mine, I don't know why I thought of Vegas. That's another show, Gus. But what happens in the Ontario Mine Contractors Safety Association doesn't stay there. It goes around the world. And really that's a function of the members who work globally. So that's how it disseminates so quickly.
No, it's very cool. And one of the things that I gathered from the meetings as well is that even though the contracting space is competitive, each individual contractor brings a little special something they specialize at. Like, this is something that becomes routine for them. And what I've seen through my career so far is that the non-routine tasks are what kind of gets you, when it comes to safety, because you're just not used to doing that kind of work. So being able to see some of the innovations from groups that do this all the time, to kind of give a heads up to people that if they're gonna do it, this is something that you might want to consider, because we've learned our lesson from those things. I thought that was super special in the meetings as a whole.
Yeah, I think in general, and Roy would be able to comment on this better, but contractors take on high risk work often. We are hired for our expertise and specialty in performing work that the clients generally do not, right? So with that, there's likely a lot of opportunity for improvement and innovation. The innovations that have come through mechanized raise climbers over the years have been numerous, and it's something that is generally done by contractors. So I think it's a good point there, Gus.
I think the other evolution that I've seen is two things. One is going from being reactive to being proactive. And so there's much more emphasis in safety and certainly in Ontario mine contractors in leading indicators and how we're going to prevent injuries, not how we're going to investigate them and prevent the next one, but how we're going to prevent them. And I think, and that nobody talked about leading indicators, 10 years ago, or maybe somebody did, but I didn't hear them. But that's been an evolution recently as well. The other thing, I got to comment on the innovation contest, because it's I don't know how many wins. It's a win-win-win at least, and it could be 4 or 5 wins, because the innovative company gets a win. They get that recognition. The individual that proposed it, they're up on stage at the Workplace Safety North conference. Great positive recognition. The other contractors that are in the room get to see it and implement and protect their employees. So it's a win for them, and it's a win for their employees. And Gus, you pointed it out, and it's so unfortunate that in a competitive industry, we don't share more. I'm involved in the CIM, and it's all about knowledge sharing and collaboration. But the OMCSA is a great example of knowledge sharing in our industry, and it's a great model.
Like I said, the meetings I've been to, that level of openness has really stuck out to me, as it's not guarded and protecting your information. Steve, you talked about it on the incident sharing front. People are sharing. We're all learning and taking something different away from it, but it's open. You're getting the raw truth, and the people are asking tough questions, and they're either being considered or brought back, and everybody's got a different perspective and a share and an evolution. And one thing that I noticed from the last meeting, as we're talking about this from a change perspective and an influence perspective, if I can, Steve, you had shared about, you mentioned no blame earlier, and it brought me back to something you had shared on how cementation is doing investigations at this point on fatal events or high potentials, where this no blame concept is coming through. And that's fairly new in that room. I would say it's something I've heard, seen, have definitely attempted to participate, but I don't think it was the predominant way people were looking at things in the room. So it's clearly innovative, and it'll be fun to see, how long it takes before a concept like that, flows through and we start sharing and talking more about it for something like that to become more mainstream. What are your thoughts?
I think it's the right approach, because if we focus too much on the human element of these things, then you make mistakes. I make mistakes every day. And if your corrective actions are saying, well, we're going to discipline Eric, or we're going to fire Steve, or we're going to tell him not to do that again, it's likely to happen again. So actually at that last meeting, there was an example given, and somebody actually challenged the presenter a little bit. While it is an open and supportive environment, somebody said, well, I don't know if you've really actually managed that risk well. You could do this, you could do that. And if you look more at the science of what hurts people and the energy sources and how you keep people away from those, I think we'll do a better job. The easiest thing to do an investigation is to say that a worker or workers or a supervisor screwed up. Sometimes people do screw up, right? But that's simple. But if you want to, I think, get better corrective actions, then you'll look beyond that. And I think it's pretty cool that in these meetings we'll challenge each other a little bit on that, and call each other out if needed. And that's all in the interest of protecting the people in the industry. We too know, like we also know as contractors, people change coveralls sometimes. It's probably not as much as the industry believes it to happen, but your worker, your supervisor could become our supervisor, that next day, or the next project. And if we can just get away from blaming the people and looking at better methods, better systems, then we'll get better.
Yeah, because you can see if you're sharing, especially when you're sharing names, you can see that you potentially are exposing all of the future workplaces for that individual in one shot. And we talk about this all the time, like that Swiss cheese analogy, right? If you're going to blame the last hole that the thing occurred as the source of the problem, you missed out on a whole series of events that took place to actually garner that opportunity, right?
You've got to look at all the holes. You can't just blame the A-hole. You have to look at the B and the C and the, anyway. But I wanted to comment on something that Steve said, because no association is perfect, and we've had our challenges over the years. And a couple of lessons learned. It's very important that the executive be from a number of different companies, and that's the way Steve and the team are set up now. When you have one company with 3 or 4 people on the executive, we ran into problems. The other thing that happened over the years, because mining is such a cyclical industry, contracting, 1 or 2 things are happening. You're either short of work or short of people. There never seems to be an in-between. And when you're short of people, there's the issue of poaching. And you've got all the best safety people in that room. And there were times, back a while ago, where it became a problem. And we had to sit down and talk about it as an executive and say, nobody's going to show up if they're worried about their people getting poached. So there's kind of a gentleman's or an unwritten rule there about that. But that's a few lessons learned from a long-term association. And I don't think that's just safety. That could be anything in any industry.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Roy. And actually, in our terms of reference or bylaws that we have now for a board of directors, there's actually a rule in there that an organization can only have 2 members on the board of directors, and that's probably from the lessons learned from the past, but to not over influence things necessarily. I've been on the executive and the board of the OMCSA for I think 11 years or so now, and I don't think we've ever had anything's gotten too contentious. I don't think we've come to a vote or anything like that within our internal discussions. And doesn't mean that we don't have some conflict sometimes within those discussions, because you're talking about a passionate group of safety professionals and some operations people as well who want to do the best thing. And over the years, we try and pride ourselves on getting operations people on that board of directors in those meetings. It's really critical that they're the ones steering the ship when it comes to health and safety on their projects. So when you can have that influence in the room or around the table, it pays off so much more, because they're the ones who can truly make that change. The HSE professionals are, I think, most of the organizations are not looking at them as cops or anything like that. They're resources, they're subject matter experts. But it takes the chain of command and those senior operations people to influence that change and make sure that the actions are being done and followed through and done for the right reasons.
You've been on 11 years, Steve. I only lasted 2 years before I exited for reasons we won't talk about today. But so thanks. Maybe this is an opportunity to just say thanks for your service, because I know it's extra work, and I know what you do. So it helps everyone. So thank you.
It is. And if I could highlight that, like, I know that's not the only committee you're on, Steve, and same for the vast majority of that executive team. And so for those people to give up their time, their energy, that's time away from family, hobbies, and work at times. But it's making a difference in industry. And they're also looked up to. And they're a voice, and they're representing us as contractors. I saw some of it at the last meeting where there's, maybe issues to be brought up because a lot of these members are on other committees, such as the MLRC or other such committees, and issues are brought forward by other members, and then they're the voice of industry, they're the voice of contractors in those different organizations. Really fun to see and to be at the table and to watch that people try to make a difference. So
yeah, I think that's a good point. And thanks. This is my this is the favorite group I'd say I belong to, and I'm pretty passionate about it because I've seen some of these long lifetime members in the past who really took a lot of pride in it, and I don't want to let it slip, the quality of it.
Your favorite group other than cementation, the company you work for, is what?
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah.
That's just wanted to clarify that for the audience.
Sure, appreciate that. But Eric brings up a good point too on the representation by the contractors. I think there's some senior people amongst our member firms that sit on pretty important associate like boards and committees for the province of Ontario, and they really do a good job in representing the contractors, because sometimes when it's talking about policies or rules or how money might be spent or where focus should be, sometimes it's easy to get wrapped up in the biggest clients' perspectives, the biggest owners. Even, I grew up in Sudbury, but sometimes I could see a Sudbury bias, right? And the contractors, because we work across the province, across the country, the world, I think help bring that perspective. And I think because of some of the respect that the OMCSA has, we've earned seats at Workplace Safety North's technical advisory committees, and making sure that the contractors are well represented and perspectives are heard, because it can be different. It's unique and there's different challenges. So I think because of the 300 meetings that have taken place in the past, the group has earned that respect, and the people representing it really do a good job for representing their people.
When Ontario first set up its Prevention Council to advise on workplace safety in the province, I was on the inaugural council, and a mining contractor advising the government on workplace safety, but there were people from Workplace Safety North involved who had been to Mine Contractor Safety Association meetings and had seen what was going on there. And in the broader picture, construction in Ontario, agriculture, the hospitals, all these things that are happening, mining is a fairly small constituent. But I may be a bit biased here, but the most advanced in terms of working on safety and innovative safety. And we brought that to the Prevention Council. We brought that to the province of Ontario. So it's a group that's been noticed, and a group that I think is providing input beyond mining. And I believe there is a rep from the contractors on the Prevention Council now. I served for 3 years, but as a fairly small industry, and contractors are a small industry within mining, we have a big voice when it comes to safety in Ontario and in Canada and in the global mining industry.
One of the things that has come up a few times in our conversation today has been about making a difference where the work is happening, in the field, on the ground. And I just want to ask you guys a question, because we also talked about the Innovation Award, but there is another award that is handed out annually, and I believe it's at the December meeting. Steve, mind sharing with us about that?
Yeah, absolutely, Eric. That's another really good one. And what comes up now in our December meeting will be our Safety Leadership Awards. And the board of directors actually years ago had pretty good discussions on how do we move away from the lagging indicators to the leading indicators, because there's some trophies, they're almost archived now, to be honest with you, about one organization's lowest, based on how many people work for them or hours worked, lowest TRIF or lowest lost time injury frequency. And for many reasons, we decided that is not the approach that our association wants to take. So one of the ideas was, well, how can we recognize those people who truly make a difference? And Jake Hughes has kind of championed this approach over the years and done a great job at it. So what we have is each member firm, or even our associate members, can nominate an individual from their company who goes out and walks the talk, so to speak, demonstrates leadership, does the coaching, does the training, speaks up, provides that leadership. And Jake does a really good job in making sure like this is not about recognizing a safety professional. This is about the people who are, you know, supervising work, doing the work, overseeing, overall responsible for health and safety. And you know, I think the organizations do a really good job of getting those winners to the December meeting. It's great recognition. I know a lot of companies do their own thing internally for them as well, but it's pretty prideful to hear the responses or the criteria why somebody was selected. And you know, those are the people making the industry better every day.
That is another super special piece. And I think as our viewers and as we start wrapping up, as our viewers are listening in, I'm sure that some of them are very familiar with UMCSA. Some of them might have never heard of it, right? So for people out there, how do you get involved with the UMCSA? Is every organization in Ontario so far a part of? And is it also limited to just Ontario members? What is a skinny on that, Stephen?
So our membership is, you know, anybody can reach out to me. You can find me on LinkedIn or send me a note. I'm the secretary treasurer for the association, so I handle a lot of the membership items and some of the invoicing. Yeah, our member firms. So we've got two categories. Member firms are those who typically do the hands-on mine contracting work. A lot of them are national and international organizations. Some are based in Sudbury. And then we have a pretty long list of what we call associate members. And the associate members are some of the original equipment manufacturers, suppliers, and they want to be in the room too when these incidents are shared. They want to learn from. So if you make equipment, and a lot of the incident shares involve equipment, you want to take those lessons learned. You want to bring them back. You want to close the loop. If you supply the industry with training or PPE, stuff like that, you want to learn. You want to see what you can do better. So yeah, it's pretty great. It very minimal cost. Member firm is $400 for the year. Associate member is $250 for the year. Basically, just covers our meeting costs and some of the social aspects that we do over the course of the year to get everybody together and, you know, swap some stories and all that.
Perfect. Yeah. So I encourage everybody, if you're not involved or at the conversation or you want to be involved, get a hold of Stephen Rickson and he'll guide you in the right direction. And I do believe it's a fantastic group to be involved in. And I'm sure you're always looking out for some more support for the board and for just the events as a whole. Right, Stephen?
Yeah, definitely. You know, we want to fill the room. Usually our meetings, you know, they vary anywhere from about 35 to 60 people in person in attendance. We even managed our way through the pandemic with some good, I think, Teams meetings that ran pretty well, and we continued some of that. But yeah, part of it is we want more people in the room. We're going to get the information out more. We can collect a few more dollars, and, you know, every once in a while, if we get a bit more money in the kitty, we decide, you know, what can we do with this, whether it be scholarships or sponsorships, things like that to help grow the industry.
Steve, maybe one more, kind of along the same lines, but you know, you talked about the OEMs and the suppliers. If I know there's always different people and different groups presenting to the OMCSA. It's the same thing. If somebody was, you know, has something they would like to share, they get a hold of you.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we work on the agendas for each meeting. We like to have some new innovative technologies or products shared. So yeah, by all means, they can reach out to me and we can get them involved.
Very good. Well, I thank you so much, Steve and Roy, for sharing your background and your history with the OMCSA, and just for taking the opportunity to meet with us and just to share with the world essentially what's going on with the OMCSA and why why there's a secret sauce there that exists within the group, and it's quite special in my opinion. And again, I appreciate you taking the time to speak with us today.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Anytime.
Okay.
Happy to do it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Right on. All right, everybody. That's a wrap for today. If you have any comments, please leave them below. As well as if you want to keep following us with the future episodes, we are on YouTube as well under Change Itself, as well as LinkedIn on Change Itself. And until next time, Eric, that's a wrap.
Right on. Thanks a lot, everybody.